Your life begins not with celebration, warmth, or loving voices, but with judgment. The moment you are born on the planet Viltrum, armored officials gather around your crib, scanning your body and checking your vital signs as if you were a weapon being inspected rather than a child entering the world. In Viltrumite society, birth is not a miracle, it is a test. Their doctrine is brutally simple. Only the strong are allowed to live. Infants who show weakness, deformity, or poor physical potential are quietly eliminated to preserve the genetic superiority of the species. Fortunately for you, the doctors nod in approval. Your strength meets their standards. Your parents, still dressed in their battle uniforms, breathe a quiet sigh of relief. You are allowed to live. But survival does not mean comfort. What Viltrumites call home bears no resemblance to a normal childhood. Instead of toys, laughter, or gentle care, you are placed inside a gravity chamber where the pressure is 4 times stronger than Earth's. Every tiny muscle in your newborn body strains to adapt as the crushing weight forces your bones and tissues to grow stronger. Your cries echo against the cold steel walls, but no one comes to soothe you. On Viltrum, compassion is weakness, and weakness cannot exist. From the moment you take your first breath, your value is defined by one thing alone: your strength. By the time you reach 2 years old, your life already looks less like childhood and more like the early stages of military training. Viltrumites are born with extraordinary potential. A fully grown member of your species can lift hundreds of tons and fly across planets with ease. Even as a toddler, the first signs of that immense power begin to emerge within you. But on Viltrum, natural ability alone is never enough. It must be sharpened, tested, and hardened from the very beginning. Your toys are not colorful objects meant to entertain you. Instead, they are heavy-weighted blocks designed to strengthen your muscles and push your endurance. Every day is spent lifting, climbing, and struggling against resistance. What other species would call playtime is simply another form of training. Every movement is observed, every improvement recorded. Because your development is not a matter of pride, it is a matter of survival. Soon, another ability begins to appear. Your body starts to lift slightly off the ground as the first hints of Viltrumite flight manifest. The moment this happens, your combat training intensifies. Your parents monitor every detail of your progress with cold precision, measuring your strength and reaction speed as if you were a weapon under construction. When you stumble or fall, they do not help you. They simply watch. On Viltrum, a true warrior stands up alone. By the time you turn 5 years old, the training of your early childhood evolves into something far more brutal. You are enrolled in the Juvenile Combat Initiative, a program where children your age are forced to fight one another in organized matches. This is not a playground filled with laughter or games. It is a battlefield designed specifically for children, where strength is tested through violence and defeat carries real consequences. Your first opponent is a boy named Laro. He is older than you, larger, and clearly stronger. The rules of the match are brutally simple. Incapacitate your opponent. There are no referees to stop the fight if someone gets hurt. No sympathy for weakness, and certainly no mercy for those who lose. The moment the match begins, Laro charges forward with overwhelming force and slams you to the ground. Pain shoots through your body as the dust rises around you. From the sidelines, an instructor growls a single command: get up on Viltrum. Falling is not an excuse. Pain is not an excuse. Losing is never acceptable. You force yourself back onto your feet and strike back with everything you have. Your fist connects with Laro's jaw, sending him stumbling backward before crashing to the ground. The arena erupts with applause from the watching children and their parents. at only 5 years old. You have earned their respect, but that respect is fragile. On Viltrum, it lasts only as long as your victories do. From this moment forward, combat is no longer training. It is your identity. And strength is the only thing that truly matters. One of the most important and disturbing lessons you learn in school is the history of the Purge. The defining event that shaped Viltrumite civilization. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the planet Viltrum was torn apart by a brutal civil war. Powerful factions within the species began to believe that their society could only thrive if weakness was completely eliminated. In their eyes, compassion and tolerance had allowed inferior individuals to survive, weakening the entire race. Their solution was horrifyingly simple: remove the weak entirely. What followed was a global bloodbath. Viltrumites turned on their own kind, systematically hunting down anyone considered physically inferior, politically opposed, or simply not strong enough. Entire populations were wiped out in a campaign of violence that became known as the Purge. Cities were destroyed, landscapes were scarred by war, and by the time the conflict finally ended, half of the planet's population had been slaughtered. Viltrum itself lay in ruins. Yet to the survivors, this devastation was seen as a triumph. They believed they had purified their species, leaving only the strongest individuals alive. From that moment forward, the philosophy of survival of the fittest became sacred law. Viltrum rebuilt itself with a new purpose, and soon its people turned their attention beyond their world. Armed with overwhelming strength, they began conquering other planets across the galaxy. For every world they encountered, the choice was simple: submit to the Viltrumite Empire or face destruction. One of the most important lessons you learn in school is the story of the Purge, the defining event that shaped Viltrumite civilization and its brutal ideology. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, long before the Empire expanded across the stars, the planet Viltrum was consumed by a devastating civil war. Powerful factions among the Viltrumites believed their society had grown weak. They argued that compassion, tolerance, and the existence of physically weaker individuals were holding their species back from achieving true dominance. In their eyes, the only way to ensure the future of their race was to eliminate weakness completely. What followed was a horrifying campaign of violence. Viltrumites turned on their own kind, hunting down anyone considered unfit, inferior, or opposed to their ideology. Entire communities were destroyed in what later became known as the Purge. The war spread across the entire planet, leaving cities shattered and landscapes scarred by destruction. By the time the conflict finally ended, nearly half of Viltrum's population had been slaughtered, and the planet itself lay in ruins. Yet the survivors did not see this tragedy as a failure. Instead, they believed they had purified their species, leaving behind only the strongest individuals. From that moment forward, the doctrine of survival of the fittest became the foundation of Viltrumite culture. Strength was no longer just admired, it was sacred. After rebuilding their civilization, the Viltrumites turned their attention outward, launching a campaign of conquest across the galaxy. Every planet they encountered faced a simple choice: submit to the Viltrumite Empire or be destroyed. At 10 years old, your training reaches a new and far more disturbing stage. You are assigned to your first observation mission on a planet recently conquered by the Viltrumite Empire. Until now, conquest had only been something you studied in school or heard about in stories of glory and victory. But the moment you arrive, the reality is impossible to ignore. Cities lie shattered beneath clouds of smoke. Villages burn in the distance, and the air carries the heavy scent of ash and destruction. This is what Viltrumite victory truly looks like. You follow your squad leader, the imposing General Korf, as he surveys the aftermath of the invasion with cold indifference. Eventually, your group arrives at a line of captured rebels. They kneel in chains, their heads lowered, waiting silently for whatever fate awaits them. Then something unexpected happens. General Korf turns toward you and calmly says, "Decide their fate." Your heart begins to race. You are only a child. Yet suddenly, the lives of these prisoners rest in your hands. Their terrified eyes look up at you, searching for mercy. But on Viltrum, hesitation is dangerous. Doubt is weakness. With trembling hands, you point toward the execution squad. Korf nods without emotion. And moments later, the prisoners are gone. That night, you lie awake, haunted by the memory. For the first time in your life, you feel guilt, but on Viltrum, even that must eventually die. At 16, the moment arrives that every young Viltrumite both anticipates and fears. The Viltrumite trials. These trials are not ceremonial traditions or symbolic tests of maturity. They exist for one purpose: to eliminate anyone who does not fully embody the Empire's brutal ideals. Failure here does not mean embarrassment or disappointment. It means death. You and 30 other candidates are transported to a distant moon where the gravity is several times stronger than that of Viltrum itself. The conditions alone are punishing. The objective is simple: survive for 1 week while completing a series of increasingly brutal challenges. The first task is a race across the moon's jagged terrain. Every step feels like your body is being crushed under enormous weight. And the sharp rocks tear at your feet. Those who fall behind are not rescued. They are simply left where they collapse. After the race comes the combat arena. The surviving candidates must fight one another. And your opponent turns out to be Laro, the rival you faced years ago in the juvenile combat program. Now he is larger and far more dangerous. The fight is intense but short. With a well-timed strike, you bring him down. The final challenge is the most ruthless of free-for-all battle between the remaining candidates. Alliances form and collapse quickly. After days of fighting, only a few remain. In the end, you defeat your final ally, Corvin. When the trials end, only 3 survivors stand. You are one of them. In your 50s, you are summoned before the Empire's High Command, expecting another assignment to conquer some distant world. Instead, they give you a very different mission reproduction. According to the commanders, your years of service and battlefield success prove that your genetics are exceptional, and the Empire wants that strength passed on to the next generation. Your new assignment is to travel to a distant planet called Corylus and infiltrate its population. The strategy is cold and calculated. Viltrumites possess an extraordinary biological advantage. They can reproduce with almost any species in the universe, and their genes overwhelmingly dominate the offspring's genetics. The result is children who are nearly full Viltrumite in strength and potential. Your mission is to live among the Coryllan people, gain their trust, find a compatible partner, and produce powerful offspring who will eventually strengthen the Empire's control of the planet. When you arrive on Corylus, however, the world surprises you. The planet is peaceful and beautiful. Nothing like the harsh, militaristic culture of Viltrum. The Coryllan people value art, community, and harmony with nature. As you slowly integrate into their society, you begin to see a different way of life. Eventually, you form a relationship with a woman named Ara. Together, you have 2 children who inherit your incredible abilities. For the first time in your long life, you experience something. Viltrum never taught you what it truly means to have a family. Years later, the call you always knew would come finally arrives. The Viltrumite High Command contacts you and delivers a simple order. Return to Viltrum and bring your children with you. They are to be trained as warriors of the Empire. molded into the same ruthless soldiers you once were. But by now, everything in your life has changed. The years you spent on Keralis have shown you something Viltrum never could piece. Love, and the meaning of protecting a family. The thought of sending your children into the same brutal system that raised you feels unbearable. Instead of obeying, you lie. You report to High Command that unexpected complications have delayed your mission. The lie buys you time, but you know it cannot last forever. In the months that follow, you prepare for what you know is inevitable. You secretly train your children to control their powers, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to survive. When the Empire finally discovers the truth, they will come. And eventually, they do. An invasion force led by General Korf descends upon Keralis. Among the soldiers are faces you recognize, former comrades from the countless wars you once fought together. The battle is hopeless. The Viltrumite army vastly outnumbers you. And, you cannot win. But victory is no longer your goal. All you need is time. You fight with everything you have, holding back the invading warriors, while your partner and children escape into the wilderness. Eventually, the Empire overwhelms you, and you fall in battle. Official records mark your death as betrayal. Your name erased from Viltrumite history. But to those who knew the truth, you are remembered differently, not as a conqueror, but as a father who chose freedom for his family.